Ever feel like you're doing this teaching thing alone? You don't have to be. Shared teaching is all about sharing the workload through the power of collaboration and teamwork. Together, we'll walk through all the difficult parts of teaching and learn how to streamline our processes, fine-tune our time management, and develop a more manageable workload. If that sounds like a dream come true to you, then welcome to the Shared Teaching Podcast. Let's share in the teaching to make those dreams a reality. Now here's today's Shared Teaching. Hello, welcome back to the Shared Teaching Podcast. I'm your host and creator, Susan of Shared Teaching, and today we're talking about episode number 79, Why Sight Words Are Important. So I decided to create this episode because I was really starting to think, with all this new science of reading information that's out there, if my current or my normal practices of how I use sight words and even have my centers is really going to work at all with this new information that's coming out. And I really like to be aligned with best practices. So I thought, well, if I have these questions, I'm sure other teachers do as well. So let me go ahead and share with you what I found out. So science of reading, believe it or not, has been traced back as far as the 1800s, even though it's just recently gaining in popularity in current educational practices. So it makes sense why we're wondering, why are sight words important if they conflict with these new practices that aren't really new after all. So the first thing of why sight words are important are that they are everywhere. Any text or book that you are reading contains sight words. I'm even speaking in them, right? It's estimated 75% to 80% of all words used in books are made up of the 220 Dolch words. Writing a sentence is impossible without using sight words. And Dolch words, just a little side note, are my favorite sight word list to use, probably because it's the first ones that I really used, but many of the other sight word lists, Fry's list, or maybe you have a district list, they have overlapping words, and that's okay. Many of them have the same words, they're just in a different order. So whatever you use, it's still impossible to get around without using sight words. Sight words are a part of our everyday vocabulary, which means it can help make sight words easy for many students to learn. Now, once students learn sight words, it can free up their cognitive resources to focus on the words that they don't know. In other words, they're spending more time on figuring out those unknown words than they are figuring out what we would consider like the easy sight words. Okay, another reason why sight words are important is because they boost student confidence. Since so many of these sight words are everywhere in print, knowing sight words can give students a big boost of confidence. This is especially true for beginning or struggling readers. Let's say they learned the word the. Now they're going around and they're recognizing it everywhere, and they are so excited because this is a word they now know, and they're seeing it, and it's helpful, and they're recognizing it, so they're excited over it. Now, students get that sense of accomplishment, and then they're more wanting to engage with the materials that they are reading. Confidence and motivation are really crucial factors in nurturing a love of reading, and sight words offer a way for students to experience fast success, building a positive reading identity. Sight words can also help improve fluency. I know as a second grade teacher, I really pushed fluency this year with my students because it's important, especially as they're on that verge of becoming third graders and the reading material just gets more complex for them. Fluency, if you don't know, and hopefully you should, is the ability to read accurately, smoothly, and with expression. It's not just the rate of speed, but it's all these things combined together. Now, fluency relies on students being able to quickly read and process what they've read, so sight words are an important factor in that. When students can recognize sight words instantly, they can spend more mental energy decoding unfamiliar words, comprehending the text, and gaining deeper meaning from what they read. By incorporating sight words into instruction, we can help students achieve greater reading fluency and overall comprehension, which of course is what we want for our students. Another important factor in why we still need sight words is that they support whole word recognition. Now, Science of Reading emphasizes phonics instruction to decode words, which is fantastic because knowing letter sounds helps students gain even more word power than memorizing the same amount of words. You might have seen the graphics going around on Instagram with a quote from Dr. Martin Kozloff that states, "If a child memorizes 10 words, the child can only read 10 words. But if a child learns the sounds of 10 letters, the child will be able to read 350 three-sound words, 4,320 four-sound words, 21,650 five-sound words." That's just from learning the sounds of 10 letters. That is just crazy powerful to think about. So there is a huge place in phonics, rightly so. But what about those kids that have trouble reading and phonics just isn't working? Maybe they're more of a whole word person where they just need to look at the whole word, then they memorize it, they learn it. There are students like that. So having both is a great way to reach all your students. Now, many sight words, well, not many sight words, but some sight words contain irregular spelling patterns or phonetic assumptions, and this makes it more efficient for the students to just memorize them as whole words. By explicitly teaching sight words, you are giving your students a bank of words that they can recognize quickly, reinforcing their ability to comprehend text independently. Last but not least, sight words can bridge the gap with Science of Reading. Now, as we learn and study more about the shift towards the science of reading, we might feel we can't use traditional approaches to teaching sight words. Sight words should not be viewed separately from phonics instruction. Instead, I want you to think of sight words as helping to complement your phonics instruction, as many sight words can actually be decodable. As we look at words like and that, even and, those all have decodable components, and they can be broken apart using phonics instruction. By incorporating both phonics and sight words, your class will have a comprehensive literacy education that supports students' diverse needs. Not all students learn the same way, so it can be important to have multiple approaches to learning. Using sight words in your instruction alongside a systematic phonics program is going to offer the best of both worlds. So yes, you still want to have sight words. Sight word instruction is still important. It's just a matter of how you approach it and to make sure that you remember the importance of them. Remember, they're everywhere. They can help boost student confidence. They can improve fluency, and they can support whole word recognition. And in case you want to learn a little bit more about why you might need sight word centers, I have a previous post for you, and that is in episode number 58, Why Sight Word Centers Are Still Beneficial Even with the Science of Reading. Thank you so much for being here for today's episode, and don't forget, in June and July, I have a special bonus Saturday episode called Saturday Snapshots, where I take you deeper inside one of these points that I talked about today. So hopefully you'll stick around and listen on Saturday. Make sure you are subscribing to this podcast on your favorite podcast player so you don't miss an episode. Bye for now. If you've loved this show, then join me in sharing the teaching,
hitting that subscribe button,
and leaving us a review on
iTunes,
so we can be found by more teachers like you who are ready to start sharing the workload. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. Find new episodes each week on sharedteaching.com. Thanks for listening to the Share Teaching Podcast. If we look at words like that, like, of, maybe not of, and gaining deeper material, or deeper,